George Washington, the reluctant leader who showed the world what honor looks like. In a world that glorifies power, fame, and self-promotion, we need to look back to a man who had it all and walked away from it. That man was George Washington. He wasn't just the first president of the United States. He was a man who led a revolution, refused to be king, and built a republic not around himself, but around principle. He didn't seek glory, he sought honor, and in doing so, he became one of the most respected leaders in all of human history. If you're a young person today wondering how to lead in a culture full of division, distractions, and dishonesty, Washington's life offers a rare example, a man who put service above self, duty above ego, and country above comfort. Who was George Washington? Born in 1732 in Virginia, Washington started out as a surveyor and soldier. By his early 20s, he was already showing the traits that would define his life: discipline, determination, and a quiet confidence that others naturally followed. When the American colonies began to fight for their independence from Britain, Washington was chosen to lead the Continental Army. He had little money, fewer men, and almost no supplies, but he had courage, grit, and unshakable resolve. For 8 years, he endured brutal winters, battlefield defeats, and betrayals, but he never gave up. His leadership held the revolution together when it could have fallen apart 100 times. And when America won, he did something no one expected. He gave up power. The world had seen countless military leaders become tyrants, but Washington walked away from absolute control to return to his farm. Later, when asked to be president, he accepted, but only out of duty. After 2 terms, he stepped down again, setting a precedent that would shape democracy forever. He didn't lead for applause, he led for something bigger. What you can learn from George Washington. Washington didn't just change history, he left a blueprint for how you can lead, serve, and grow in a world desperate for people of principle. Here's how his example can guide you. Character is your greatest legacy. Washington believed that without virtue, a nation or person cannot last. He wrote, "Human happiness and moral duty are inseparably connected." In other words, living a life of integrity isn't just good, it's essential. Telling the truth, keeping your word, doing the right thing, even when it costs you. These aren't old-fashioned ideas, they're the foundation of real leadership. You don't need a title to lead, you need character. Lead by example, not ego. Washington wasn't the loudest voice in the room. He wasn't flashy, but people followed him because they saw consistency, courage, and humility in everything he did. He rode into battle with his men. He fasted and prayed for guidance. He listened before speaking. If you want to influence others, don't chase attention. Earn trust. Show up. Be disciplined. Do the hard things no one sees. People will follow someone who leads from the front, not the spotlight. Use power to serve, not control. When Washington won the war, he could have taken everything: fame, fortune, lifelong control, but he walked away. He believed that power was a responsibility, not a reward. He used it to build institutions, not empires. In a culture obsessed with personal gain, Washington reminds you, the most powerful people are those who know when not to use their power. Ask yourself, if you had influence, what would you do with it? Would you serve others or yourself? Sacrifice is the price of freedom. Washington gave up comfort, safety, and peace to secure freedom, not just for himself, but for generations he'd never meet. That's real vision. He suffered for a cause bigger than himself. He believed that liberty was worth bleeding for, and that responsibility came with it. Today, freedom is taken for granted, but if you want to make an impact, you must be willing to sacrifice your time, your comfort, your excuses for something bigger. Build something the next generation will thank you for. Why this matters today. We're living in a time where leadership is shallow, character is negotiable, and power is often abused. That's why we need George Washington, not just in our history books, but in our hearts. He reminds us that real greatness isn't about being the loudest or most popular. It's about doing what's right when it's hardest. It's about having the strength to fight for truth and the humility to step aside when the job is done. Washington didn't lead because he wanted power. He led because he couldn't stand by and watch his country fall. And in doing so, he built something that still stands today. So ask yourself, what are you building? What are you willing to lead, protect, or sacrifice for? If you want to be different in this world, start with the example of George Washington.